To see the world clearly, we need to understand the effect of sin on the world and what sin has done to us. So, what has our sin done to us? Fortunately, God never leaves us guessing about answers to life's ultimate questions. Around the year 57 AD, the Apostle Paul wrote his letter to the church in Rome. And to start things off, Paul commits Romans chapter 1 to setting the stage for the good news about Jesus by explaining the bad news about sin. I want to identify the three things that Paul tells us, which answer our question, what's wrong with the world? And here they are. Our first problem is that humanity is suppressing the truth. The second is that we are embracing an exchange. And the third is that humanity is living under God's wrath. Now, let's take a closer look at each one in turn. Our first problem is that humanity is suppressing the truth. Paul writes, "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." A charge often brought against Christian faith is how unfair it is to suggest that only people who've accepted Jesus will inherit eternal life. What about the millions of people who never hear about Jesus? How is it fair that God would punish someone for not believing something they've never even heard about? Well, that wouldn't be fair. And since God is just, he would never do that. God won't hold anyone accountable for not believing what they never knew, but he will hold everyone accountable for not believing what they do know. And what the Bible teaches so clearly here, that Paul spells out very plainly, is that everyone knows that God exists. Taking us all the way back to Genesis 1, Paul says that God has made the fact of his existence and even the truth about his nature plain for all to see and understand. He said, since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, his divine nature have been clearly seen through the creation that God has made. In other words, from the vast and amazing awesomeness of the universe, to the awe-inspiring design and artistry of the living world, right down to the unbelievable intricacy and complexity of a single cell, God's creation shouts the fact of his existence and his divine nature. And this means that no one will ever be able to stand before God one day and claim that they never knew about him because there was insufficient evidence. What Paul's saying is that everyone knows God is real, but in our sinfulness, we suppress that knowledge. Our greatest problem, then, is not our inability to know the truth about God. It's our inability to want to know. So to summarize, the first problem with the world is that because of sin, humanity is suppressing the truth about God, not because we don't know that God is there, but because we don't want him to be. And the reason we don't want God to be true is because we want something else to be true. You just watched a very small part of our video series called Seeing the World as Jesus Sees It. If you want to learn more about how the Bible can change the way you see everything and transform your life, then click on the link in the description below. And thanks for watching.